Carter, I'm present. Ron, present. Pete, present. Ryan, present. Mike, present. And Laura. Present. Okay. Ryan, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, sir? Absolutely.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody signed up with public comments?
Is that where you sign up?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
we'll hold it open for another few seconds if I want to sign up. It's the first time for me, I'm sorry. That's okay.
The copies of the agenda are up there.
Hey, look what
Oh, I have. Get right.
just told me. What if you- About 3 days right now.
Ready, busy.
I just want a copy of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if this is your first time commenting in such a thing, there is a 3-minute time limit. We won't cut you off mid-sentence, but you mind. First one, sign up, Trey.
Can I move the decimal over? Kidding. I'm Trey, actually. My wife and I own a pharmacy a few doors down. I've spent over 2 decades in federal law enforcement, working a lot with state and local police, all over the state of Texas and in other states. And I'm going to comment briefly about the difficult decisions that I know you all are facing. I drive the streets every day. My kids go to the schools, have a business here in town. And I know you all are faced with tough decisions in terms of allocating limited resources. I know that. But what I want to say to you is that the budget for the police department, I'm asking that you look at that very carefully. Police department budgets over the last several years have been the subject of a lot of political and budgetary turmoil. And many decisions have been made about police departments by people that are uninformed regarding what it means to be on the street and protect the public and do the job that they do every day. You all are faced with staffing decisions that will relate to the staffing of the police department. John faces staffing decisions at Red Bud. My wife faces staffing decisions in the pharmacy. We go back and forth on how much this, how much this, how much that. And sometimes she'll pull data from here, I'll pull data from here. At the end of the day, my wife is an expert for pharmacy operations. And when there's disagreement, I always defer to her expertise because she knows what she has to have to do the job safely. If we mess up over there, bad things can happen. We can do misfits. People can get hurt, people can die. If you are not cautious about staffing decisions related to the police, the consequences are far worse. And so what I'm asking you today is, as you go back and forth and you consider data and you consider different perspectives, I'm asking that you lean on the expert opinion of Chief Ruger. That's what I'm asking you to do. And I know, Mike, you and I met, and I remember one of the first things that you said to me was how impressed you were with his credentials, his leadership in a number of different areas, et cetera. He is a man of integrity. He is somebody that we're fortunate to have in this little city. We don't often get people of that quality to lead such a small department as this, but we have them. And so as you go through this back and forth process, I ask that you lean upon his discretion and his judgment at the end of the day as to what this police department needs from a staffing perspective.
Thank you, Trey.
Yeah.
Neil, I can't read your last name.
Nyans.
Nyans, Neil Nyans.
I am Neil Nyans. I've been in Blanco since 1995. I'm also retired 30-year law enforcement. And I was in management in the police department in Austin. And so I've been out here with prior administration and this administration, police administration. And Chief Ruger's doing an excellent job. And I'm comparing that to where I worked in Austin and the prior administration, police department. It's like Trey was saying, it's hard to get good people and keep good people, especially in a small community like Blanco, because a lot of officers that get their commission and get their first job will come to a smaller community where it's easier to get a job, and then they'll move on. So the turnover's, massive. So that creates training problems, which costs money, because now you get new people every 2 years. You got to train them. So that, that's a hidden cost. And when I've talked to officers on the department. In the last 3 years, I've been stopped in Blanco 4 times. Prior to that, I've never been stopped. And each time, I would have stopped them. And the officers are professional and they're good. And some of the officers told me that they came to Blanco because Chief Ruger was here. They weren't one. So that, to me, as a career law enforcement officer, that says a lot. And so that I don't know what kind of value you can place on that, but it's pretty valuable. It's something you should consider. And the other side of that is, to have a good police department, it costs money. And with, all the increased traffic on 281, you're getting all that big city crime coming this way, going through town. So I would argue that we probably need more officers than less, just the annual value of the potential, crime that's coming this way. And it's coming this way with the growth. So, a lot of good things cost a lot of money on concept, but what you get back from it is far more valuable. So please consider all of that. And I encourage you to talk to the officers, the street officers as well that work here before you make a decision. And that kind of adds a human aspect to your decision, which I think should be included as well. So,
Thank you, sir.
yep.
Joe Hernandez.
Good evening, I'm Joe Hernandez, and I'm a 20-plus year resident here in Blanco County. Also a 20-plus year veteran of the police department in Austin. And I will tell you this one, there is nothing like coming home to Blanco and enjoying the safety and all the other things that Blanco has to offer. And I really believe that starts with our citizens and our police department. The working relationship and the understanding that our department here in Blanco has with the community is it's unmatched. I worked in Austin for many years, and I don't want to keep referring to it, but I will say this much: even a city of that size, that magnitude, and a budget that they have does not have the relationship that they need to have with the community. And this department does. Okay, at any given moment. Right here on the new 35, that's the way I like to refer to it as. 281 has turned into the new 35. And we expect from our police department to be able to manage the traffic and anything that comes with it, accidents, speeding, crime, drugs. This man and his team of officers are the ones that have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. Not you, or you. At any given moment, if we make a knee-jerk decision at this level, can greatly affect what happens on those streets with these officers. The police department here in Plainville, it's not McDonald's. Okay? You don't put in an application and then you put it on the grill the very next day. Here, it takes almost a year before you start with the police department and then you are cut loose on your own and you are count as an individual officer that can respond to calls on your own. So that being said, safety is paramount when it comes to the police department. The way that he trains his officers, the expectations that he has for his officers, plays a great part in keeping this city out of trouble. It is a huge liability if you do not have the backup and the resources that you need as an officer and you go out there and try and do that job. The trend in this country right now is you can go out there and do a great job on that call. If someone is hurt or you have to use force because it was required to take control of that situation, the trend is those individuals sue the city and the city paying. That comes out of the city's budget. I only want the very best here in Blackville. My kids go to school here, my wife works here. I have a ton of friends and families, and I support the local businesses in this town right here. And I appreciate each and every one of you for stepping up and doing this job. I understand public service, I understand what it takes to hold public office. So thank you for doing that. Now, please take into consideration this man's expertise when making decisions when it comes to the budget of the police department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, budget discussion workshop number 1. Want to take over here?
You start.
Just keep reading.
Mayor, council, President Blanco, appreciate everybody coming here to hear exciting news about our budget. Kind of go through. I'm gonna go more of a macro view of what we need to look at, and then after that, we'll have both Chief and Sasha go through their portions of the budget. But first of all, we mentioned that we have three budget workshops. Today is one of them, the second one is 27th, and then tentatively we have another one in July. I think last year we needed all three for one real quick. What I'm hoping to get through today is all of the general fund budget, which would be all the departments. We go through that, maybe do an overview of the enterprise, maybe get through that, maybe we don't. But that's kind of we're going to do more of a macro view, at least of this part of it, and then I'll give the floor to them. I want to explain a couple things as well. Different cities do it different ways, but I think this is really critical. And what we're truly facing is there are cities of budget shortfalls that certain things. So, but I invite you to get in and see what well is. And we'll look at this to really understand the budget and ask questions. So, the macro view of this is we're putting this together. We're putting together based on what we know the revenue to be, which will basically there's two pots of money we have. The first pot being capital taxes, and that's basically property taxes. And your second pot of money being your sales. We're going to assume the revenues for sales tax will be the same as last year. So that's the first assumption. The second assumption is that the tax talked about right now we are $55 valuation. That's what this now taxes for Avalon. And I'm going to tell you what some of the other cities are that are about our size, just to kind of give you a reference. We're $35,700 valuation. Johnson City is at 35 cents a $100 valuation. And Gary is at 40 cents per $100 valuation. City of Ingram, which is your Kerrville, is at 43.29 cents, a $100 valuation. Bertram's at 48 cents. So you can see that we're on the low end, we're not the lowest, we're at Johnson City, but that is. And when we talk about percentage, and when you look at the state law on the percentage of going up 5%, well, last year we went up 8%, but that's total valuation. So that's not just how many cents we go up, it's the total valuation. So the valuation this year, which we don't have yet from the county, this valuation this year is basically a total of last year went up a total of 8%. So it's not, and I think in cents, we actually stayed at the same amount of 35 cents at $100. You know, what a quarter of a cent. So that I want to kind of get out of the way and explain. Okay, so last year was a little bit more of a guess because we didn't know what the total expenditures would be because we always look at the year before. So this year, I believe we have a much better accurate picture of what the expenditures will be because we have the same team. We have the same team of engineers, the same auditor, we have the same, we have Infomark for utilities, we have the same staff. So moving forward, when I say on the macro version of what we need to do to have a balanced budget, and then Sasha will kind of explain that a little bit more, I'm see what we'll get at. So what we did last year, like I said, was 8%. This year, to get a balance, and we didn't have a balanced budget, we were about $150,000 short. To get a balanced budget, if you choose to do 8% this year, I'm not saying you need to, I'm just saying you do go for a full 8% that we did last year, that on taxes, that would get us to, I think that's $55,000 in the black.
Yes.
Okay, so that'd be $55,000 in the black. And then if you look at the enterprise fund, yeah, so the macro is just kind of give you so 8%. This is all going to be the same as last year, but the fact that we've also had an increased CPI. If we do, this is going to be a little bit of a shocker, and I don't take this lightly, but if we look at an increase of 20% utility rates, we would be at a $25,000.
Yes.
Basically in the black. So from there, what we're going to want to do is look at expenses, go through line by line and see if there are ways we can cut money, cut expenses, and that's where your job comes in. So look at line by line, and we as staff will we have an idea that how to save money. If we don't, then we're at, like I said, 8%, 20%. Unless there's some other, there's some other things that we can do as well, but that is, so we went through the budget, staff did, and this is where we're at. Again, this is going to be a tough budget year, and I want to let people know that we don't take, this is your hard-earned tax dollar, and want to make sure that we're doing that. Really looking at everything for the financing account. Having said that,
I think our loss out of our enterprise fund for last year was 350.
I think it was 353,000, is that correct?
354.
350 something.
350, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, when we were talking about being in the red previously, we were talking on our general fund. But on our enterprise fund, we were in the red $354,000.
We were in the red $354,000 for the enterprise fund, and I believe we were in the red $142,000 for, and we had in the past, we actually had passed some what's called fund balance. But those are starting to run down.
Yeah, but
At some point, we have that balanced budget or not.
we're not gonna float.
The flow. Right. Okay. So before we start with the more going into every line, does anyone else have a question on the macro portion?
The, two things. One, the enterprise fund, right now, we're getting 100% of our water from Canyon Lake, and that's a lot more expensive than when we were able to get out of the river.
We pay, I think it's 2.3 cents 2 point, I have to look at it, but yes, it's more, so it's $2.33, I'll have to look at it. But I
Do
believe
we
it's-
have an idea of what if we went, Lord willing, ready to throw the switch and go back to the water plant? Do we know what that'll do to our bottom line on that?
I don't know, we can get to those numbers.
So, about anyway, was paying, even paying for the availability.
Paying for availability, but I also believe there's a little charge per gallon, at least $2.33, 1,000 gallons, but I'm not, we'll double check that.
The other thing, you talked about tax rate, but at the same time, my properties in town that have literally doubled in the last 4 years value. So people might have been, the rate might have gone at, 8% last year, but people paid significantly more.
So I'm gonna go ahead and explain, you're correct. The valuation goes up, and I believe it's allowed to go up 10% a year. I'm not an assessor.
Well, if you have a homestead,
If you're home
Yeah,
but
state,
if you don't,
Yeah, a lot of real
But
properties.
but when we talk about last year having gone up 8%, that is not the valuation, that is the total percentage. So for example, staying at 35 cents per $100 valuation, we kept it at 35, and the end of being 35.5, but keeping it basically the same rate, we still want 8% of overall tax. So.
And that's the property appreciation, correct?
Yes, sir.
In the appraised value.
But for the,
above the no new revenue rate.
for the people paying their taxes, they don't care where it's coming from, they're paying more, no matter what, when the values go up, whether we raise the rate or not. We're
Well,
making more.
So not exactly. If you do a no revenue rate, then the actual cents per dollar goes down, and then percentage goes down, and then how much you pay should stay the same. Okay, so for example, what we have there is the no revenue rate, which is basically flat. You have a voter approved rate, which is 3.5% of total value. And then you have 8% in the minimis, which is like 14%. And I don't think the city, the most of the cities ever raised, and it was 12%. And they never reached. But we have all those up there just in case you want to look at different rates. So, thank you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know how much person's taxes would go up per 100,000 evaluation at each of those rates. I don't think I did that.
Okay, I'm gonna go over there and look, because I can't see that one. Okay. So you're asking about the percentage, or you're asking about the actual amount?
The amount that people would pay. So if we went with the 8% increase, our new tax rate would be 45 cents, 45 per dollar.
45 cents for $100 evaluation.
So that's, people would pay an additional about $94 per 100,000 evaluation.
Well, if I understand this correctly, the tax rate is projected with an 8% increase in state constant at somewhere around 35 cents. It's the property appreciation that we're gonna pick the 8% up out of. Is that not correct, Warren?
I guess I don't understand.
But he's proposing an 8% rate increase.
So we're proposing 8% rate increase. We don't yet know how much the county
Yeah.
is going to.
All right, let me ask this a different way. If the appraised value of our taxable properties increased 8%,
Yes.
then our tax rate, but theoretically, the rate per thousand would stay the same.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's not gonna be based on $100,000. It takes into consideration the appreciation or the increased value that's been assessed by our county tax.
So, for example, last year, we stayed at 35 cents per $100 valuation because even though we went up 8%, the actual percentage stayed the same. To get to the 8% amount.
Right, I guess in theory, if the property values went up 16%, and we approved an 8%, then the rest per thousand would come down.
And this is, the assumption is everything stays the same as last year. Not saying it will, that's where you come in as a council and say, okay, we want to do this, or put it in that. And I suspect that you will trim down the budget a little bit to get below 8%, and maybe look at the enterprise and maybe not have to go for the full 20. Or maybe you want to do that and start building equity. So whatever you want to do, these are the numbers we have from a macro standpoint. So any more questions before I give the floor to Sasha to explain?
Okay, so y'all had like a week to look at it. Nobody really emailed me any questions, but I know y'all all have a ton of questions. So I guess we'll just look at the general fund, which is on my tab, Fund 100. And we can just go line by line. If you're happy with those, we can just leave it. If y'all feel y'all don't like it, y'all want to change it, let me know. I'll make a note on my spreadsheet. I try to put some notes out there on things that, because I can't remember every line item and what makes up that line item. I got 5 different funds here. So I try to put detail out there of if the amounts have went up. Again, I feel the amounts on here are more precise because last year I came in and the budget should have already been done at the time that I came in. Today is my 1 year anniversary. So this is the day that I came in and I had to do a budget with QuickBooks, which is not governmental accounting software. So it was a mess. It's a hodgepodge mess. I'm not going to say anything else. It was just a mess. Now we actually have governmental software FundView that y'all all approved, and we have been working on that. This is actually pulled right out of the system from FundView. It just puts it in an Excel form. Now the other little tabs with my little calculations and the little bar graphs that can come out of FundView, that's come from my calculations. But the actual funds, I plug in these numbers in the system and it populates this. It's just put on Excel. So like I said, we can go line by line. If you're fine with the whole department, and again, I pulled these revenues, I pulled contracts, I pulled everything I can and dwindled it down the best that I could. And each department head took their departments and dwindled what they could dwindle down. And I compared last year's to this year's, so y'all can kind of see the difference on each department, the revenue and everything like that. The items that are highlighted yellow in y'all's spreadsheets are the things that have changed since y'all saw it on Monday. So I just made them yellow. If y'all have a question about it, again, y'all can see that since Monday, I have dwindled it down to make it look better. So like I said, if y'all have questions, we can go right into the questions or we can just go line by line. It's up to y'all how y'all would like to do this.
Well, Sasha, let me start, and then we've already discussed this a little bit, but it just seems like a great place to start.
Okay.
The first number on the first page of my packet is the council budget, and we talked about this.
Yeah.
I'm coming to 7,200 unless these guys are
It
being
is.
paid a lot more
No,
than
no,
that.
it is 7,200.
Okay.
Back in the day, we actually have 2 councilmen that don't pay the stipend.
Right, so it's
So-
7,200.
7,200, and then you have the mayor and his portion is a stipend. So it is, if you see it's checked, and I kind of put a note out here, why it went down from last year. And last year was a rounding number, it came out to like 96.
So the number I'm seeing is 18,400, that's not.
What, are you looking at this page? Oh, you're looking at a bar graph.
Yeah, because it's, I love the color and it's.
Oh, look at staring at it.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I understand it.
Okay, hold on. Which bar graph are you looking
Well,
at?
it's, for me, it's the first page of our packet, and it's a pie graph.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, I think, so,
So I didn't know if there was just something else folded in there, this is just.
oh, because,
Line 4 hasn't been updated yet. From the numbers on the, it still is. On the line. by
that's the
line, she
whole
got it updated.
budget in that section.
So I'm
it's
just wondering
not
what
just-
else is in there, I'm just curious, do we know? I'm not trying to put you on spot.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it's,
curious.
I gotta go back to the council budget, hold on.
You might have had it general
So it's right here, when I flip back here and you see the Plainville Historic Preservation, in between that gap, it comes out to 18,400. That's the total that's going into that. It's per department.
And what page is
Okay.
that on?
That's on, it's the first page with all the numbers listed on it. That's our general fund.
Okay.
So if you roll down past the revenues are like the 3-digit number dash 4-digit numbers. You go into the first portion of the expense. That's the council portion. That's what's making up that whole 18,000. It's not just the
I
stipend.
just, okay.
Okay,
This is
that bar graph is each department's full amount in one. I'm just trying to learn.
Okay, no, that's helpful.
Okay,
That's what I wanted to know. I didn't realize.
sorry, I
things that
thought
are
you
folded
were
into that.
okay. Any other questions you don't have, like on a precise thing or?
Historic commission. $2,000. They need something more along the line, 3,500, 4,000. I'd like to raise budget, but that's one of those things they requested with the stuff they have going on. They requested $6,800 last year. We got $2,000. There was a lot of stuff that needs to be done that didn't get done. I understand that we can't step it up that high. But I'd like to see $3,500. I think we're under the push to get it funded. Historic commission, the amount of money we spend on other stuff, the things that the historic commission does for the city and to protect this historic is pretty important. We're about 2,000 on the budget. It's sad. Just speaking from experience.
And to add on to that, what Ryan was saying, we also need to, we had talked about paying the HPO like on a contract basis. So that would be part of that too.
No, that's
Right.
actually, that's actually the hot funds that.
Oh, okay.
that.
Okay,
Council had already approved that a couple of years ago.
okay.
And I don't disagree with you, Councilmember Williams. Are we expecting that the historic commission to present us something that justifies that 3,500?
Yes, sir. There's supposed to be a budget on those.
On the 27th?
Correct.
Okay.
26, oh yeah, they meet on the 26th and then we'll meet on the 27th, correct?
Okay, I'm flagging them, so my notes, so I can take them over. And at the very, when we're done, it'll actually recalculate the total, so we'll be able to see it at 8%, 3%, whatever, I get a little off.
Thank you.
We'll be helpful that page numbers.
Yeah, would.
Sorry, I don't look at paper like y'all look at paper. I constantly look at my sheet.
Two of six.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, I can't read that.
There is a page number on some of them, but I can't read. I have to take out my contact and then I can see what's up.
So I have a question, and this might be for Chief Rubin.
Okay. I'll give this department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I just looked at my graphs.
Oh, we're looking at the graphs. Okay,
Yeah,
let's go back to the graphs.
Right.
Feeding.
So,
Okay.
and I think you might have already, spoken to this, but, so I was just curious, 37,500 for contractual, just give me like a general idea what that is, and where are our SROs, is Officer Rice included?
No, so we don't pay,
We pay out nothing, there's no contribution.
okay, this money comes straight from the school district, comes from the county to district, straight to the county. So we're just processing it.
And I can show.
Because I thought I had signed his check, so, but that's just, that's just be, okay,
That's just- We just, it's a direct reimbursement from the school district.
okay.
The majority of the contractual fees is gonna be dispatched. Dispatch is 20-something thousand.
Yeah, I have to look at it.
Dispatch is over
It's
$20,000 of the total.
Dispatch is 23,000 next year for his budget.
Dispatch and,
And so under
the second part of that?
under contracts, if you put, like Taser, that's sort of the,
I was just curious, just generally, so dispatch.
146.
have it all.
The copier lease is in there for them. It's kind of all broken out. I got formulas, so I have to look at formulas in that. What do you need?
On the copier leases, does that lease change prices depending on how much we use that?
We actually do send them reports. I think you do that.
We do a quarterly meter reading, so it's a base fee plus any overage. But it usually stays pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty conservative.
If some of the council decided to go digital with their reading packets,
That'd be awesome.
So that would be nice.
lower the, not that all of us have to, but yeah, it would help some of the council. So even if some of them did,
Yes.
would that help?
And all that, because then I wouldn't have to kill the tree.
Every little bit helps.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'll have to reprint this again, because it keeps changing every time. So, yes, it would help a little.
I mean, you can purchase tablets and you'd have that upfront expense, but in the long run, it would be cheaper. It would save over time.
Chief Rubin, was I right in hearing that the state of Texas now will require an SRO or person at each campus?
Yeah, so that's something we have to work on with the district. It doesn't necessarily fall on the city. They're not Chicago yet. So the state law requires that an armed person be on every campus. So with our current agreement, we have one full-time SRO that the school district pays 10 out of the 12 months for. We have a second part-time SRO that's actually funded by the county. This year, because they provided the funding partway through the school year, we refused to work enough hours getting there 3 days out of the week. The county's intention is to give us the same amount of money, and they give us the same amount of money for the entire school year. This gives us 2 days of coverage. So we're still discussing how we're going to fill those other days and get campus. There's options for the school district, school marshal programs, school guardian programs. I'm not a proponent of either of those. So we're really going to have to see how they can do that. What I thought was about it is they should come up with that matching funds for the county, and the way we're doing with Officer Rice as a contract. So I'm keeping it 3 days a week at 9 hours a day. So we're keeping them under the 32 hours a week. So we're not providing any benefits. So you're just getting paid an hourly rate to work those hours. But the law, and most law, don't come with a lot of user manuals. So when you say I've got an option on an armed person on campus every day, when that person comes in sick, you have to put someone else there in their place. So currently, with our contract with SRO, we're supposed to be out for X number of days, and I have to go up with the body to replace that SRO with SRO. Thank you, sir.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at setting page number 3 of 6. It's legal fees. Right at the top of the page. Warren had sent me the budget actual, when we're what, 9 months now? We're already at $45,000 for the year. We're not even that a year. For this year, we're already $14,000 for budget in that. So we've already spent the 45,000. So where did that number come from?
Okay.
In fact, it's been about 60.
Right, we have busted it this year, you are absolutely correct. And I have got good more on that and told him, hey, you were totally busted what we put. I sat with him and I said, I kind of need a ballpark of where we're starting next year, because what I put out there was a way higher number than what's there. But he now knows that we have busted, so he's gonna roll that back next year on the legal.
So the legal fees are provided, I don't know if you know this is fair, in two areas, enterprise fund and general fund. So I think we were looking at legal fees of what?
You put, in your enterprise, you put, because we have it broken out into water and sewer, both jails, we got 20,000 in the water and 20,000 in the sewer. So we got 40 for the enterprise
So I'm
fund.
just looking at the general.
Oh, okay, yeah, the general fund is
45.
45.
45.
We're already over budget. We're at that number already.
Yeah, we're probably spending about $105,000 for legal fees this year. Hope was that we're gonna reduce the base fee, 10%, and then also look at some cost cutting. So that's how you go from about 104, 105 to about 80.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. So probably just me, but under your legal fees, it shows you 2022, 2023, you're at 30,000.
But we've already spent 45.
Right, we've already.
Where's the,
We're waiting
where's
for
this
the
30,000 come from?
That's what we put last year budgeted in there, but due to all the legal fees we've had this year, it has broke that budget.
Okay, so.
That's what we put in the budget.
You're gonna find that we busted on legal, and busted on engineering.
Correct. Those are our two
When
main
you go through
ones.
this, that's what you're gonna see, sir.
Okay, so the current is just taking our prior budget and advertising, prorating it out. It's not our actual cost.
You know, it's everything we're trying to do is we're trying to look at what we have actual costs this year. Now, we
I
determine.
understand it's just 9 months. But so the 30,000 is not our actual cost.
That was our
That was our budgeted cost for 9 months.
budgeted cost for last year.
Last year, that's
We're
what,
on track to be double that this year.
But this is his 22, 23 budget.
That's this current year.
That's our
budget.
current
So our current year, that was where we got, I'm sorry. The numbers you posted in this ledger are actual costs, is that correct?
No.
no, they're budgeted, this
They're
is.
budgeted.
No, a middle column saying actual would be helpful.
No, oh, okay, I can do
Yeah,
that.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can put what we have in the state. That you get on your monthly,
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm looking at here, yeah.
yes. Okay, what you're looking at right now, the first column of the numbers is last year's budgeted items. Is that what we actually have spent this year? Oh, current, sorry, current, yes.
Okay.
The next one is what we're hoping to go for next year's budget. But in the current year, what we've actually spent in legal has busted that 30 and beyond, 30, way beyond. that.
And we've used we've used at budget the actual numbers to try to develop what the cost for next year will be.
Okay.
Okay, so those are more
Then
accurate.
if we're discussing legal, the legal, we budgeted legal in the enterprise fund as well.
Yes.
And has that gone over as well this year?
For last year, yes, so.
You said you had 20,000.
We want for the budget we're working on now for next year, in enterprise, we put 20 for water and 20 for sewer. That's what we're budgeting for next year's enterprise.
Even the 20 plus the 20 plus the 45 for next year's budget is way less than what we're on track to spend.
Correct.
That's correct.
We're looking at around 105 this
So
year.
there's the hope, there's two hopes.
Did you say we're looking at around 105 this year possibly?
This year, we will have spent 105. And we're hoping to look at a reduction in fee and also some cost. First of all, there's an issue that happened last year. We're thinking that won't happen this year. So we're, like I said, we're looking at about 15% less budgeted now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going back to the first page. This, we're breaking down, yeah, it's the big picture thing. $55,000 for streets and parks, we not have anything, where else would we find, like, where, how do we feel comfortable? Where's that in here?
What I got in here.
Yeah, so,
So I don't think last year we really had, well, we did, we had two things budgeted, the building maintenance and paving materials. We only, so we had 5,500 last year, or current, sorry, I keep saying last year, I'm in NPRA, in current year's budget. So, really, we don't have a line item pothole. I'm just gonna be honest.
road maintenance,
We don't have that.
we need to
So-
address that.
Right, because we have our contract with Infomark, but that doesn't cover everything.
And they're not equipped for that.
Okay, but in our actual expenditures in our current budget, we did spend $200,000 on the street. So, I mean,
Yes, we did, but it's, oh, right.
so since it's a wash or.
It's a wash because I moved the COVID money out of, Texas Class, I moved over to our bank and we paid Titan Milling and those other vendors that paid it off on my day. Yes, so it was a wash. We took COVID funds and we paid out for the paving or for fixing the potholes. It was being washed.
What was the total amount that we spend on potholes?
I think about
I
two.
think it's gonna end up being 235. That's what.
We still might have one outstanding. It
One
was,
more
so far we spent in my head, I think about two that I paid out.
Since we're looking at street and parks, I mean, I want to point out too that, you know, most of our park work is done by volunteers, so we're getting by really, we're very fortunate to have the volunteers that we have.
So Sasha, we have $45,000 in there for that, for streets and maintenance?
You told me that maintenance and mowing, I have 40,000.
Okay, so the reason why we have that is, we can talk about this more in the next meeting, but, currently we have basically, I'm gonna say it, we don't have any street maintenance. We have no maintenance to take care of, other than the volunteers, but when we have stuff on our right of way, we have issues with Infomart on being able to clean that because it's not in the contract. I know what was sold us a year and a half ago, but it's actually in the contract, if you read through it, is basically just utilities. And there's some carve outs in there, including, they would mow, Denzel Park, and they would do maintenance and repair on the restrooms at the park, but there was nothing else. So I put in $40,000 and we will have a contract with an outside company. If you want to do that, you want to just take that out, could.
Well, no,
$40,000 is a place mark.
We need to be in a common business.
And that could be pothole filling, that could be cleaning up, our right of ways, that could be, mowing, I mean, that could be different
Well, I'm
things.
saying there should be a shift somewhere where we can actually address these.
So we would probably take from that 40,000 and
That 40,000 is dropping by, or what we need.
for that.
One of the other possible revenue sources, like the COVID funds that we had, that we haven't used, that we anticipate having, that could be utilized to offset some of the costs for additional maintenance on our streets.
We don't have anything yet. I mean, we're looking at grants, we're looking at different things. I think I mentioned you were gonna get reimbursed for the storm that we had, 75% of that, that's dropping the bucket, but we're looking at revenue sources, but I don't have, other than the two you mentioned, we don't have ARPA money coming this year, that's in front of us.
Because it's quite a few there.
Well, we don't have any other sources.
I mean, if we're looking at the budget, there is still an outcry, you know, in reference to the condition of our streets. And understanding that over the past 20 years, we only spent $10,000 a year on our street. And that can't help us maintain or preserve the assets that we have.
Let me say this, other than the Safe Streets of School, which was grant funded, other than that, if you look at what CMAC put together, there was never a year that they spent more than $100,000 on repairing streets. Most of the time, it was a lot less than that.
And, you know, I've looked at the CMA, and I know the rationale that I've heard is that, well, we're gonna have to rip them all up anyway to replace what's under it, which is true, but their plan is 20 to 30-year plan to do all that. So that means if we just punt, I mean, the roads won't be touched for 20 years. That's unconscionable. And I agree with the people who spoke. You know, people want the best, they deserve the best. Well, that has to be done in balance. We deserve better. I agree. Yeah. And so we need to figure out how to shift what's here to a little more of that direction, in my opinion.
Okay.
There used to be a lot of federal infrastructure funds a few years back anyway. There was a lot of talk about how the feds were providing funds for infrastructure.
There are several bills,
Grants they go out
several
there.
bills at the state level that are supposed to put money to. But again, there's nothing laid out, and
there's no guarantee of how the process is gonna work.
Let me also ask this, I know CMAC has a pilot program that they're wanting to, do a Ninth Street.
Yes,
Is that in here
That would be a separate bond.
altogether? We have to do a bond for that, do a bond on this, yeah.
The CMA vaccine, they outlined it in 20 years and they have, you know, bond year by year by year by year by year. Every year we bond it to go that chunk. That's just what we're looking at. And we're $45 million behind it. It's just gonna impact by a little bit. I guess in theory, you could add something in that bond for maintenance each year, but I hate borrowing from our grandkids. Quick, there's, I see number here, this 0 last year, 15,000 this year for electric on page 5 of 6.
You learned about the 15,046.
$46.15.
Okay, last year that was actually, because like I said, we were in QuickBooks, it was kind of thrown in general fund, but it wasn't in the right department. So I have actually broken it down into streets, since that's where that portion of that part of the electrical should be coded to. So it was included last year, just again, it was in the wrong department. So I have put it in the right department.
Okay. Basic macro question on page 1 of 6, where we have the overview of the rates and it's broken into 2 categories: revenue expense, revenue expense, but it's one is just straight revenue expense and the other one is with the enterprise paying general fund. Can you just explain?
Oh, you're talking on the enterprise, I guess this one right here.
No, let me show you.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, where we got that to. You're talking about enterprise paying general fund?
This is what I'm looking at. So sure.
Oh, you're looking at,
the enterprise paying general fund.
what, which is,
So,
oh, okay, I see what you're looking at. Okay,
so just help me when we're considering these different
right.
tax levels, help me
So-
understand the significance of those 2 categories, what I should be looking at.
Okay, so most cities actually have the enterprise fund, pay the general fund, due to administration and just, you know, because they kind of work hand in hand and work together and things like that. So, we're really not, or Warren and I are really not pushing for that right now. We really need to just get the general fund and the enterprise fund in a balanced budget is the goal. So, but I put this on here because if you flip over to the enterprise here, I did different analysis. So if we did not have enterprise, okay, so if we had enterprise fund, pay general fund, and we didn't do any rate increase to the enterprise, we just did it off no rate increase, what we currently have,
Yep.
we would be in the hole. If we had enterprise pay general fund, we'd be in the hole in enterprise, happening.
So,
But if we do the rate setting and y'all bless either the 20% or the 35, that's y'all's choice. And I can do a different number of calculation if you want.
so
but I
you'd
just-
rather me not look at the category with enterprise paying and global fund?
Not right now.
Because the numbers, so much better, so that's why I'm asking.
Make decision on rates, that's it.
It's just, I would go with the rates. I would say with the basic rates to get your enterprise and your general fund squared away. I don't think we're there yet to start tapping into another thing. I think we should get our actual just base funds on both of them pretty. And then next year, I know I went a little fancy, next year, maybe we can tie that in when we get a balanced budget. We can do it this year. Those are the numbers out there for it. But I would say let's go with the other.
I'm gonna explain the reason why we put that up there. You're gonna say, why Sasha, why put it down there when, but we're not gonna do it. And I think what I want to explain is a lot, I'm not saying you should do this, but a lot of towns, rob Peter to pay Paul. So for example, most places have their utility rates where it's supposed to be. And utility rates never make money. General fund never makes money. General fund always has a hard time. Every city I've ever worked in has a hard time making budget. So what happens is, the idea is that right now, I think we only pay 3%, which is actually the utility clerk, their salary is paid by the enterprise fund. But what we're looking at is if we ever needed to help the general fund balance, what you can do is you can take a look at the percentage of administration, which is 80% of our budget, by the way. If you look at administration, I probably 40% of my job is looking at the enterprise fund, dealing with water, dealing with sewer, dealing with that kind of stuff. Finance, probably 50% of their job is enterprise, and then, you know, maybe 20% or something like that. That was where that number came from. Doesn't look like we're in the, that is the, having enterprise action. And if you do raise utility rates, the way, the rate study person looked at it and seen that, then you will at some point be able to do that and actually help the general fund.
Okay, so there are several things in front of us, correct? Choosing a tax rate.
Yes.
For ad valorem taxes, and also considering utility rates.
Correct.
Okay. And then the one other, I think you've already said it, but I just want to hear.
So for example, me also put something else out. You decide no way we can do 8%, I want to 6%. And you're gonna have to find that, I think it's $160,000 in cut. So
That leads me to my question. If this is the number I'm looking at, it says with 8%, we end up in the black 55,000, am I correct?
Correct.
So even if we wanted to somehow come up neutral, I mean, it's something very close to 8%. That's pretty much where we're at if we want to
Right.
have a balance
You
budget.
have a little bit to wiggle down on your percentage, but again, the more you wiggle down, if it gets a little closer, then we might have to adjust something.
And that's 45 cents per $100 evaluation,
Correct.
which would have a 10% or 10-cent increase per 100, more or less, correct?
You know, I think I would approach this in a different way. I'd sit here and look and say, where do I want to be in each whole big budget? You know, what can I tolerate before being balanced in the red? And they come up with that number, and then look at the budget, and we decide if we're going to reach that goal by raising rates, or if we're going to reach that goal by cutting expenses. So, I mean, you've got to, I mean, ideally, yeah, I want to balance the budget.
Yes.
But we can't do that right now, in my opinion. I mean,
I'm just trying to.
We've got to get to it soon, or it won't be solved.
I haven't made my decision yet, but I just want to make sure I understand that.
Sasha, I have a question. Something jumps out, what's $1,000 to $257,000? COVID-19,
Right. I just put that out there. That's what we have left of the COVID funds that we have not spent. That's what we have left. So I put it up in the revenue, so we just know how much we have left to spend. And then I put it down in the expenses because it's gonna be a wash next year. If you blow all that money for whatever you blow it on, I put it down in expenses.
blow it.
Well, I'm just saying, that's a wash. It's like, up here. They put it go somewhere. Somebody's gonna spend it somewhere, so it's a wash. It's a wash. So that's why I just wanted you to know how much you had out there, because some of the stuff you don't actually see the money because it's in Texas class and it's sitting there, and it actually is occurring. We're getting awesome interest. I do have one question since we're all here, and I kind of need an answer on this. It kind of ties in with our council meeting, so I don't know if I should bring it up, but I'm gonna bring it up. I need to kind of have an answer. Right here on this income for our general fund, I put in bold 62,000 Texas class. That's what I could actually put in that box instead of 30. And the reason why I could do that is because currently we have, I don't know, 1.2 right now in our consolidated checking account in Texas Regional Bank. If I took that down to 250, but FDIC covers it, and I move the rest to Texas class and only move it over when I need more money, then I would get more interest, and that's where we would get that 62,000. If we leave what I have in there, it's fine, it's working, that's kind of the thing we're talking, then I would leave it at 30. So if I left $1.2 in Texas Regional, we'd get about that. If I move it over to Texas class and kind of just monitor and move it over when we need it, when we have a large bill, which I can do that, it's not a problem, then we would get more money out of Texas class while it's sitting there, and I don't need to.
Would there be a drawback to doing that other than you having to transfer things from time to time?
No, you get, these are the benefits. You get more interest. Your money would be covered by FDIC.
There's no downside,
There's just need some time to win some money and,
more money, more better.
and get some-
Well, I mean, and you're taking money out of local.
you are taking money out, and that might hurt feelings, I'm just being honest. So,
That's all.
your friendship with,
Feelings, people.
okay, but I can switch that to 6-2, but again, when we go to council meeting, that's the other thing. If y'all have that portion of it, then I'll change it. I just put that out there so y'all would know.
What's the difference in the yield from Texas class to the local line?
Right now, we're getting, I think, 3.54 in Texas class, and we're getting 3.15 till the end of the year with Texas regional, but that will drop off. But if we take our money out, then I don't even know if we'll go that long to the end of the year to get the 3.5, because they might be getting hurt. So, but Texas class is always high, and again, that, no matter how much money I have, and I have working out, like I have a COVID bank account in Texas class, I have our consolidated, our savings, each one is broken out into whatever I call it. And we're actually accumulating a lot of money this year through interest since we went with Texas class. And it's covered, each bank account that I have with Texas class doesn't amount on the amount that I have. So if it's over 250, it doesn't matter. Every account that I have over there is over 250, and it's covered no matter
When you
what.
say covered, you mean it's covered by FDIC?
Correct. Because it's a different type of entity. It's kind of more like an investment than it is for a bank. That's why they can cover a quite larger amount than.
So remember, this is an investment, these are investment grade notes. And Texas class is very similar to Texas pool, except for the fact that most of the school districts
Use
use Texas class.
So that's,
That's why
and I've used the Texas school, but now that I've been with Texas class, I love them. They're great, and it works just like Texas school. And we're getting great interest in. I have a guy there that I talk all the time. I can call him anytime. He's talking about us. So that's one number that might change depending on how the council meeting goes for that one section. So I put that out there. So that could make our revenue go up, which is good. I think that's the only one I really didn't change.
What's the in?
So I would go, this is what I would do, Mayor, I would go and finish up the general fund, so we'd have it completely finished. Even if that goes beyond 6, I would get that done, so that what the Sasha can do is she can make those changes, and on 3.6, and we'll have, and then I'll probably talk to some of you offline and make sure that some of the priorities we're talking about that we're following that, but I would, as long as it takes, let's get through the general fund. So we can focus on enterprise next time and we also make this question. So wherever you're at, if we're done, then we're done. With general budget, don't question. Please.
Do we have the on-call planner on here? Brandon Wilson. Where would I find these?
We have not put any money for that yet. So I guess what I'd ask you to do, council member, is to identify any projects you may want. And what we do have is we do have consulting services, I think professional services. So if we anticipate this planner, but this is the thing I haven't seen yet is what, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what specifically your expectation of the planner is. We have that, and the next council meeting, when we get council, go through
Professional fees.
either a special line item for that or within the professional fee, whatever it's 15 and whatever. But I haven't actually seen, I mean, I know he's been doing great work, but I haven't actually seen what we want him to do. I have that guidance from council.
on page 2 of 3, we have the current for the Canyon Lake water, 150,000, 240,000. What are our projections next year when we're back on, hopefully back on our water pump operating? We can save anything? Canyon Lake.
So I want to be conservative here and not, and like the mayor said, not have additional thing for that. I just have to say, I'm not Damon and I'm not the engineer. Even though I believe that the water plant will be online by sometime this fall, I'm not sure if it will be using that much water from the river because the river is really full. And so the water quality of Canyon Lake is still going to be better than the river probably next year. But the answer is, we can find out what the difference would be and we let you know, but I don't know if we'll be pulling much water from the river until the water levels go up. I will get you that number, council members, so that's always take a note to do that. Sasha,
Yeah.
give you the difference, but give you the difference, but I don't know if we want to use that difference, is what I'm saying.
Sasha, the Ardura, they're broken up in a couple places. I don't know if I'm finding them all. Do you have an idea total what?
Ardura is our engineering
Yes.
firm and, yeah, they're kind of broken out. You've seen them in the water, the enterprise fund and the general fund, we use them for both. So that's why you see my name everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're on the professional fees.
You know, the total amount that, because wherever I see
Oh,
it,
we have currently
it's
this
a,
year?
it's a 1,000% increase over
Uh-huh.
last year on in every place I'm seeing.
Right,
Go from 8,000 to 80,000.
correct. That would be our professional fee. I don't want to tell you the wrong number.
Yeah.
I can flag it and get you the actual and email it to you tomorrow.
I see that 8 to 80 in a couple places. That's
Yes,
enormous.
I'd like to know that as well.
Yeah, too.
I'll email it to all y'all.
Yeah, thank
The
you.
actual.
That's huge.
And then what I'll also email you the rate.
Yeah, that's a huge jump.
Well, the principal, the person that we use, the basically the rate sheet would look at the project manager, which is $180 an hour, and then people under them are anywhere about $165 point independent. And that was, the process that we did last year. That was the rate sheet, right?
And just that many more times than we expected. Why went from 8 to 8? 16 to 116. What I'm saying, last year budget for the two places I'm seeing their name was about 8,000. This year it's 80. Times two.
I think it was more than 8, but yeah, I mean.
8,200 and something.
Yeah, that's the enterprise side, I think it's.
That's the enterprise side.
Yes.
It really, the cost went way up on engineering, there was a lot of issues. The council's pretty back then.
Sasha, I'm looking at page 1 of 6. Seeing mixed beverage tax allocation.
Okay. Okay,
At least now I'm using two different copies here, but I'm seeing 40,000 currently.
No, that's COVID-19.
Is that COVID-19? Okay, so
Yeah.
I got the right, so that's
yeah, that's
Forty.
COVID-19. Yes, that's just what we have left.
okay.
And I have, if you go down in one of the expense lines, we gotta back them out, so like I said, whatever y'all spend it on this coming up here, it will just go down as you spend.
Okay, what about further down, recycling, currently 10,000 going to 1,000?
Yes, we were recycling and it has, I based it off this current year and it's tremendously went down. So I'm not gonna give y'all, I'm really skeptical on the revenues. I don't give y'all hope. I'm not gonna put a large number out there and say, hey, we're gonna get it, we're not gonna get it. So
we didn't get that, we're not even close, so I'm not gonna put 10,000 out there that you think you can spend, because that's not gonna happen.
Elections going from 2,500 to 6,500.
Yes, that was because we got, for an election to get done by, I think, Johnson City or the county.
Right.
The county.
So that's what we're budgeting.
That's what we're doing, we kept it to roll over, but when we budgeted the current year, that wasn't presented yet, so that's why it was budgeted low for just Lori to do it, and then we passed that to where they did it, that's why I went with the correct amount for the next year.
What about dues and memberships, 820 to 2,610?
Or,
What page are you on there?
Well, this is 206.
he's on the, oh, yeah. Okay, well, like I said, last year's line items were budgeted off of, I tried to go off the numbers I had, which is the best. So that's actually for, 2610 is actually for the finance department's dues and subscription. It's Lori's department and, Warren's department. So it's 3 departments. O2 is like 3 departments in one.
So you're saying it's not that we're spending that much more?
We're not doing that much more.
That's the accurate.
Some of the numbers we had last year were just. I mean, that was,
Yeah, we didn't hear it.
yes,
That's not.
he had some bad numbers, but it's just numbers.
Global Life. Seems like a new
Oh,
expenditure.
it is, and that is, technically, that's not our expense, I put it on there, but, it comes out through the employees' costs. It's extra life insurance, we only have, I think, 3 people on it. Honestly, that's.
So we approved that.
Correct.
Recently. Okay.
Recently, it wasn't before, but like I said, we have 3 employees that are on it, and whatever we pay, it actually comes out of there, it's just a law.
Okay.
Yes, so, I mean, I think it's like 3, 4, maybe.